What's going on, YouTube? Today I bring you a 2023 mock draft, just weekly mock draft. So, kind of what I would do mixed with, where teams will go, I think, and stuff. So yeah, just let's hop into it. Starting off number one, the Texans. It's going to be the same pick as last week, and it's still going to be Bryce Young. Not the best prospect in this class, but to me, pretty easily the best quarterback prospect. Um, the chances that you're picking at number one again next year aren't great. Like, yeah, they're going to be a high pick, but they're not going to be number one. And I wouldn't bet on myself to have the number one pick next year just to get Caleb Williams. You have an opportunity here to get Bryce Young, who, while a little undersized, very athletic, can make plays happen. I think he's a great place to start, for your team going forward at the quarterback position, and hopefully he's your guy of the future. Number two, the Chicago Bears. You can really, there's a few different places you can go here for the Bears. I don't know if Skoronski is worth quite this pick at number two, but he's in consideration here. Just getting offensive line help for Fields, and the offensive line honestly has not been that bad. If anything, you maybe want to go Johnston, but again, feels a little rich for them here too. I think at number two, the Bears, you got to go Anderson or you got to go Carter. And for me personally, while both are very good, Anderson does not quite come off to me as that number one overall type player. Jalen Carter does. In a lot of classes, that guy is number one, especially in a quarterback class that's not that great. The fact that the Texans need a quarterback, is just enough it's just enough for me to take him. If the Bears or the Seahawks or the Lions, maybe the Lions, who knows, but if the Bears or the Seahawks are picking number one, we're probably going Jalen Carter, who, plain and simply, is just a beast. This is a popular pick for a reason. He's a very, very good player, and he's scary. So for the Bears here, you need defensive help. Get yourself a cornerstone of that defense for the future. Number three, the Seahawks from the Broncos. CJ Stroud really interests me here because I still don't believe Geno Smith is the future at quarterback. Like, he's played very well this year, but it's a product of Pete Carroll. Obviously, some of it's raw talent, and I think he's been underutilized through his career, and Pete Carroll's been able to bring it out. But even if he does play like this, you're getting maybe 3 more years of it. So, while it's just tempting to say, like, let's take a Will Anderson, right, and get a great pass rusher and let Geno Smith do his thing, you have to think of the future. And, when we're talking about high upside quarterbacks that you can let sit and develop under an offensive genius, CJ Stroud just makes the most sense to me. He's got the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this class, in my opinion. That just seems like the perfect situation. You let him sit for 2 to 3 years behind Geno, while Geno's starting, and then you let Pete Carroll do his thing. I mean, you could be looking at maybe the best quarterback in Seahawks history with CJ Stroud because of his, exciting upside. It makes sense to me. Number four, the Lions from the Rams. I went Will Anderson here last time, and that's definitely still tempting to do, again. I think you can go corner here for sure. Like, they still have the need in secondary. Christian Gonzalez is a very, very good player. I think he would be worth the pick here. O-line's not really a huge concern for them, obviously, so I don't really see Skoronski. And I think they've invested a lot in their weapons. Maybe you go for a receiver or tight end later with your second pick. But here, I think really you have to go defense. And I think it's really between Will Anderson or Christian Gonzalez here. It's tough, but overall, I would say the secondary is better than the pass rush for the Lions. So I am going to go Will Anderson here again. So sticking with the same top four as last week, but they're just picks that make sense as of right now. They're all good fits. I think these are good players and good teams, or at least good fits on a few good teams. Because the Bears, Seahawks, Lions could all be very good next year. Even the Texans if they go right about it right. And especially talking about good teams, we have the Eagles here at 5 from the Saints. And I believe last week, I'm not sure what I did at this pick. I think I went Christian Gonzalez here, maybe. I can't quite remember. But here for the Eagles, Really, I mean, it's gotta be defense, right? Because you have such a high pick, you can take a flyer on a high upside type defensive player. Your offense is so loaded at every position, and you're not gonna take a running back here at 5. So, I mean, Christian Gonzalez, I think that's who I went with last time. He's definitely in contention here. I'd say the only other player that's really in contention here is gonna be Isaiah McGuire, um, who I'm sure is probably pretty low on here. I don't imagine he's very high on PFN's board, even though he's absolutely this good. Yeah, all the way at 142, Isaiah McGuire is a beast. Me and Hail Mary Sports agree. Um, this guy for me is edge number 2, and he could certainly push his way up to 1 by the end of the class. I don't think Will Anderson is, again, I already said it, but I don't think he's this all great easy number 1 edge prospect. I do think Isaiah McGuire is seriously pushing it here. For the Eagles, I mean, you have Brandon Graham, who's getting up there in age. Beyond Graham, I mean, Reddick's been very good, but he's kind of that hybrid linebacker. He's not specifically an edge. Um, you have Montez Sweat, or not Montez Sweat, you have Josh Sweat, you have Derek Barnett. I think he's still there, but he's not all that. Just thinking about it, the fit that is, I think he works best in a 4-3 as a D end. Just the fact that you can take a high upside player like him, Isaiah McGuire makes sense here. He's a very good player. I just think it makes sense here for the Eagles at 5. Panthers at 6. I'm just gonna go with the same pick as last week because it just makes sense. You know, Will Levis just makes sense here. I had some Panthers fans last week that were kind of saying like, oh, they were coming at me for it. Dude, at the end of the day, whether you hire Frank Reich or not, you're more than likely going to go for an offensive head coach. You need a quarterback. You need a quarterback, plain and simple. And Will Levis offers, I'd say, the 3rd highest upside of all the quarterbacks in this class. I mean, like, the high level plays are there. Believe me, for a while I was very much not on the hype train, why is he a top 5 player on all these boards and stuff? But really, you think about it, like, dude, he's got everything except for like the mentality and the IQ. Like, he makes very high level plays sometimes in a basic offense with no help around him. I mean, he has a bad O line. He's got no one to throw to. The run game's not very well in Kentucky. I mean, it's a basic offense, but he makes these high level plays and throws. Like, that is worth taking the upside at 6, in my opinion. So, I'll still get some pushback for it, but Will Levis, he's going to go high in the draft. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes above Stroud. There's absolutely, there's absolutely a universe where Stroud goes to 6 and Levis goes at 3 instead. Me personally, I'd opt for Stroud, but Levis can certainly overtake that. Number 7, the Jaguars. I think you just got to go Peter Skoronski here. It makes sense. I mean, Cam Robinson, he's also a little bit up there in age. I don't know how long he sticks around. And their right tackle is, I'm trying to remember, Jawan Taylor, who has improved, but he's still not all that. The thing with Skoronski is not only is he a very high-level tackle, but he's also got the versatility to switch into guard. So even if you do roll on with Robinson and Taylor, which, who knows if you will, that worst case scenario, you roll with both of those guys and you stick this guy in at guard, and you've still improved your line with a very good player. So it just makes a lot of sense here. Keep building around Trevor Lawrence. Number 8, the Cardinals. They're going to be very happy to get Christian Gonzalez here. Christian Gonzalez, my number 1 corner in the class. He's young, he's big, he's athletic, he makes the big plays. I mean, the one thing you can kind of knack him for is that, sometimes he's not as physical as you'd like him to be, but that just means he doesn't get called for a lot of penalties. He more than makes up with it for everything else. So for me, easy corner 1 in this class. And there's some good corners, but, Gonzalez is number 1 for me. So I'm going to take him here at 8 for the Cardinals. Number 9, the Colts. Man, Anthony Richardson's tempting here, because you need quarterback, and who knows who the next head coaches be. I think a really good combo would potentially be Ken Dorsey, and then get yourself an Anthony Richardson. But you need quarterback. Do you have the timetable to let him develop? I don't know, and that's going to be important when taking a guy like Richardson. Like, he's going to need to develop. As far as receiver, Quentin Johnston is still on the board, and high upside. I'd also say big bust potential, but Also big boom potential, and the boom might very well be worth it. Tackle's still a need. I mean, you'd have to go Broderick Jones, which, I'm starting to get a bit higher on him. He might be about worth this pick. Defensive wise, I mean, I don't really think you go defense here. You pretty much have to go quarterback, tackle, or receiver. I'm not sure where I went with the Colts last week. I think it might have been receiver, maybe. It might have been Jordan Addison or something. I'm not sure. But either way, though, yeah, I'm kind of struggling. I'm not sure where to go here with the Colts. I don't think you have the timetable, at least in my opinion. I just think he needs time to develop, and I don't think you have the time to do that with Anthony Richardson properly. Um, so I guess if you're rolling forward with whoever you can get, just because I don't think it's a smart idea to, I think it'd be end up really wasting a pick on Richardson. Both the receiving core and the line needs help, but I'd say the line needs more help than anything right now. And maybe it's a bit of a reach, but I really like Broderick Jones. I think he's a very talented guard. Not guard. He's a very talented tackle with potential guard versatility. But I think he can go in there at left tackle, and I think he could be your guy of the future. He's very very good. Mauler mentality. So I mean, it'll help Jonathan Taylor if anything else. So I'm gonna go Broderick Jones here. Falcons at 10. I mean, Anthony Richardson, again, is tempting here, and I trust Arthur Smith more than not knowing who's going to be the coach of the Colts. You just drafted Desmond Ritter, and although, I mean, he's not even starting right now, which is kind of concerning. It just kind of shows they don't really trust him. They don't really like what they see. And I can understand that because he's not a very good quarterback. Um, so Richardson's tempting here, but it's just, again, I don't know if you have the timetable. Like, you're a young team that's up and coming, but I don't want to just throw him in there as a rookie because you really cannot do that if you're hoping this guy can succeed. Um, you could go receiver again. I mean, they can still use pass rush help for sure. I mean Tyree Wilson. I don't think this is too early for Tyree Wilson. Carl Brooks as well. Love him, but I think it's a little early for him. Yeah, I think it really comes down to Tyree Wilson or maybe a Quentin Johnston. Although he's kind of similar in some ways to Drake London. I just think you'd want to go for something else. Um, yeah, I think why not take a run on pass rush? These top guys, they're really good, and Tyree Wilson is a beast. He's big. I think he's ready for the NFL, barring the injury. He's violent when he runs. When he rushes the passer, he's just violent, and I love that about him. So I mean, he'll be a good player here for the Falcons. Number 11, the Packers. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense, I think. Go get yourself Quentin Johnston. Big upside. You need that elite number one receiver. Christian Watson has been great these past few weeks, sure, but he's not a number one receiver at the end of the day. Going Johnston, just that huge upside there gives you that potential for having a very good receiver duo tandem for Jordan Love going forward. Number 12, the Raiders. Again, Anthony Richardson, it's tempting. Don't know, if Josh McDaniels is going to be around long term. I don't know if I trust him to develop Anthony Richardson. Besides that, I mean, the line also needs a lot of help. This is maybe where I'd go Zach Zinter. Not someone I talked about last week because I didn't feel comfortable kind of including him yet. But after watching him a bit more, again, another player where he's just really good and he's getting very disrespected here by being ranked 164, but he's very, very good. Um, Ladarius Henderson is at Michigan now, by the way. He's not coming out this year. I mean, you certainly can go defense here too. Carl Brooks would be a really nice fit. They still need corner, and there's some good corners available. But at the end of the day, the line needs a lot of help, and I think this is a little too early for me to feel comfortable going Paris Johnson. And I really like Zach Zinter, and they just kind of need help across the line right now. So I'm going to go Zach Zinter here. Again, very disrespected player. He might wait till next year to come out. Who knows? But if he does come out this year, I think he's well worth a mid first. He's a very talented guy, strong pass blocker, good anchor, good hand usage. I think he'd be a great player to add to the line here in Vegas. Texans at 13, so they already went Bryce Young. Do you improve the offense again? I mean, maybe you go receiver. There's still some very good receivers left on the board. Offensive line also needs a lot of help here, but your next guy is probably Johnson or Voorhees, and I don't know if either one is worth this pick. As far as defense goes, I mean, the next pass rusher on my board is probably Miles Murphy, which makes sense for maybe about right here in the draft. Very high upside pass rusher. Miles Murphy, or as far as receiver goes, I mean, maybe you want to go Jordan Addison. I mean, he's very good. I think he's like your optimal slot guy. Could be a very Cooper Kupp like player. And Brandon Cooks is probably gone. Besides that, what do you have at receiving core? I don't know. You have Dameon Pierce. The O-line, they've got issues, but again, I don't know how I feel taking a guy right here. Jordan Addison or Miles Murphy, it's kind of tough. The edge class is just so deep, though. Like, even though Miles Murphy has that extremely high upside and you maybe want to take it, you kind of just have to make sure that you're setting up a good situation for Bryce Young. So I'm going to go Jordan Addison here. Like I said, could be a Cooper Kupp-like player. Can certainly work on the outside, but love him in the slot, though. He's got that right play style for it, so I think it makes sense here for the Texans. 14, the Steelers. O-line needs a lot of help, but a lot of the good O-linemen have already gone at this point. Paris Johnson makes sense. I mean, he's their kind of build for guys they like on the O-line. Besides that, I mean, maybe you go corner. Like that can make sense here. I mean, I think Joey Porter's a very good fit here for the Steelers. Man, Joey Porter or Paris Johnson. I'm going to go Joey Porter here. I mean, the defense, it's not quite what it once was, but it's still a very good defense, and you're only making it better here by getting, a really solid corner. I'm not as high on him as others. In fact, he's actually my corner 4. I just think the fit in Pittsburgh is a bit better than Ringo and Ricks, even though I'm higher on them than I am Porter. But either way, I think he makes a great fit in the Steelers' defense and can be a very good shutdown corner for them still. 15, the Lions. They already went Will Anderson. God, I mean, I made this pick last week. Anthony Richardson here because, again, it just makes sense. I think the timetable fits. You're able to develop him. I like Dan Campbell to maybe do it. Ben Johnson might be gone. If not this year, maybe after next year. Seems pretty sure. But even just getting him a year to develop with, under Goff and stuff, I think would do wonders for him. God, it's tough, but I'm going to go Anthony Richardson here. I just think it makes sense. It's, close to the proper timetable. It's worth taking at this point. I mean, I just think it makes sense. So I'm going to go Anthony Richardson here again for the Lions. Number 16, the Chargers. God, receiver could be an option here. Jackson Smith-Njigba, very good. I mean, I think he would help out a lot here since, Keenan Allen can't get on the field and Mike Williams is so one-dimensional. They still need line help. They've been injured, so if we go anything, it'll be tackle. Paris Johnson would fit nicely here. As far as defense goes, I mean, I don't really know if there's any guys I like here for the Chargers at this point. So, really, I mean, it really does seem like either, Michael Mayer can be a pick here for sure, too. Because Jared Everett's fine, but he's not Michael Mayer. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Michael Mayer. I am going to go with Mayer here. He's probably the best tight end prospect besides Kyle Pitts that I've ever watched. He's not Brock Bowers level, but he's a very good receiver. And that's not to say he's a bad pass blocker by any means. He brings both, elements to his game, but very talented receiver. If this guy was a little smaller, he probably would just straight up be a receiver in some ways. But having that extra size and physicality definitely plays into his game really well. So, yeah, I think Michael Mayer makes sense here. Again, he's better than Everett. He'll give a good weapon here for Justin Herbert, who has not had a lot of receiving help this year. The Patriots at 17 could use a receiver, potentially. Jackson Smith-Njigba, that makes a lot of sense. That's a very good fit with New England. And honestly, I'm just going to go with that because it just makes a lot of sense. It's a great fit, and they need receiving help. If someone of his caliber, I don't think he'll be like this all pro level receiver, but probably better than anyone they currently have. So yeah, it makes sense for me. I think that's a great fit there. Commanders at 18. The line is I think Chase Roullier being out is really hurting it because they're a lot better than they're playing right now. They could go receiver or tight end. I think the offense just kind of needs some time to gel, and you're not upgrading from Wentz at this point in the draft. You might even want to go defense. And I think, honestly, Ellie Ricks, or I still don't know if it's Ellie or Eli. Ellie Ricks makes a lot of sense here. Big fan of Eli Ricks. Don't know if he's going to come out, but love his game. I think he's very high upside. A physical and athletic, gifted corner that just, didn't get a lot of chances to play at Alabama this year, but I think can be a very, very good corner, and Washington might be getting a steal here with him at 18, potentially a fantastic corner to play across from Fuller. Buccaneers at 19. Is Tom Brady gone? Who knows? Originally, I probably would have gone with Hendon Hooker here. He might have actually even gone earlier, but obviously the injury changes things for him. The line could still use a little help. I mean, their guard's been out. Forget his name, Marpet. He's been out. I don't know. He's the one that retired, wasn't he? Yeah, Marpet retired. Either way, one of their guards has been hurt this year, and I can't remember who it was. But either way, like, their line could still use some help. On the defensive side of things, Shaq Barrett being out has definitely hurt them, but they could use some interior presence. Miles Murphy's still on the board, and he can play, sort of that 3-4 end for them. Miles Murphy, makes, I don't know if he fits the timetable. Like, you're probably going to go into rebuild, I guess, but it's not like you're competing in 2 years. So, I mean, I'm just not sure if that makes sense timetable wise, but you still might just take it because he's a really good pass rusher. And I guess that's what we're going to end up doing here. It feels kind of like a weird fit, but I just think the simple upside of Murphy, how good he potentially can be, it's worth it for this Bucks team that, they'll be entering a rebuild. So why not get yourself a guy that could be a pretty good pass rusher in a few years? Seahawks again at 20. We had them going CJ Stroud earlier. The defense, I think, could use some pass rush help, and this is, I think, a good spot for a guy like Carl Brooks, who, again, I'm very high on. Big fan of Carl Brooks. He plays at a smaller school, but I just think he dominates. There's another Miles Murphy, by the way. He just dominates his competition, though, and I see a very bright future for him. Potentially one of those late day 2, early day 3 steals that, we'll look back on and say, like, God, that guy should have gone higher. That's what I kind of see in Carl Brooks. Really love him. I think he makes sense here with the Seahawks. A good fit. He'd go in that defense and play pretty well, I think. So I really like that there for Seattle. 21, the Titans. They need a lot of help. Receiver can totally be an option here. I actually kind of like the idea of A.T. Perry potentially here. The line is also a big need for the Titans. Paris Johnson does make a lot of sense, bringing that tackle and guard versatility. I think this is about the right spot to take him. So even though, they could use receiving help, the line's not very good right now, and I think this is about the spot I'd take Johnson. He makes sense. He's a good fit. I like Johnson here to the Titans. Jets at 22. Not a lot of needs here for the Jets. I mean, obviously quarterback, but again, you're not upgrading at this point in the draft. I'm trying to remember. They don't have a tight end. They signed one guy that had a really good year, and then I don't think he's done much for them this year. Or he's been hurt or something. Defensively, I mean, you can always upgrade your defense, of course, but it's just been so good that it's like, maybe you want to go, Kelly Ringo and get yourself another playmaker for the defense. You could totally do that. And that might even be what we end up doing here. I kind of like the idea of Sam Laporta, but might be a little bit too early for him. Yeah, you know what? We're going to do that just because the idea of Kelly Ringo in a Robert Saleh defense is, considering that they already have such a good defense and Sauce. I mean, let's say we get high upside Kelly Ringo with Sauce Gardner in that defense. That's really frightening to think about. Giants at 23. I mean, it's got to be receiver, right? Like, they just need receiving help so bad. I'd be tempted to go Laporta, but Bellinger played pretty well before he got hurt. Here, I think it's interesting though because A.T. Perry is my receiver 4. Um, but I don't know if I like that fit all too much. Like, I feel like I'd like to go with a guy here that's got a bit more of like that true number 1 upside, which I don't think Perry quite has. I think he's more of like a high 2 upside. And I think at the end of the day, who I'm going to land on here that I actually think makes sense, and I do see that one upside, is Xavier Hutchinson, who across the board, just great route runner, decent speed, great hands. I think, just across the board has that one potential. Again, I like A.T. Perry just a little bit more, but Xavier Hutchinson, very talented guy. Broncos here at 24. Again, you're not upgrading from quarterback at this spot. There's not a point in really even trying to take it. The line could certainly use help. Osiris Torrance makes sense here, just considering that Reisner's probably not coming back. But they can also use tackle help, so Anton Harrison, maybe if you want to slide him in at right tackle, could make sense. Same thing with Darnell Wright. Defensively, I mean, they kind of need corner help because Surtain's kind of playing by himself back there. They could also maybe use edge help. And BJ Ojolari would be a phenomenal fit in that defense. And I think that's a little too tempting to take up because the defense is already so good, of course, and the pass rush has been good most of the year. Adding a player that I think just fits the defense exactly, and someone that has had some very good performances, some very high level plays, uses that combination of speed and power very nicely at times, makes a lot of sense here for Denver, in my opinion. 25, the Ravens. We could go receiver here. This is actually a spot I feel like A.T. Perry would make sense because, let's say Rashad Bateman gets healthy. I think Rashad Bateman and A.T. Perry make up a very, very good duo, actually. Corner could be an option here just because Marlon Humphrey, who's the other corner I'm trying to think of? Not Jimmy Smith. He's gone. It's Marcus Peters has some health injuries and he's a little bit older. I don't think they need much more pass rush help, which is weird because it's like they have this revolving door of all these guys, but at the same time, it's like they have Justin Houston and Calais Campbell and these older guys. So I'm not sure. Maybe you want to go there. At this point, who do you really go though? Like, I guess you could go Kalijah Cansey. I mean, I think he makes sense, as a fit here. Maybe a Braylon Trice or like a Jared Verse. Cam Smith is really tempting here just because, I think, again, he can be that next corner, like once Marcus Peters is gone, and he has high upside. I think it's really down to A.T. Perry, Cam Smith. Well, Cam Smith, I don't know. I mean, maybe because the top 4 guys are off the board. I like Witherspoon a lot because I think he can bring that slot versatility as well, like not just outside, but also a slot. So probably more Devon Witherspoon if I go corner here. Edge can still make sense. Kalijah Cansey's a good fit. Kalijah Cansey, Devon Witherspoon, or A.T. Perry. For the Ravens here, when you're having some secondary troubles, I'm going to go Devon Witherspoon. Again, I think a good boundary corner, but also brings that versatility to play a good slot as well. Athletic guy. I think he makes sense here for a Ravens secondary that's not played very well outside of Kyle Hamilton and Humphrey this year. Bengals at 26. The offense has really gotten going. You can still upgrade it, though. I mean, the O-line has still actually been a little disappointing at some rights. I think Osiris Torrance makes a lot of sense here. He'd be a good fit. Defensively, I mean, I would go safety, but that's kind of why you drafted that one safety I can't remember the name of right now, but you drafted him specifically, Dax Hill, to replace Jesse Bates, who's probably gone after this year. Corner-wise, I mean, I think you can go corner here. Cam Smith makes sense. I think he's a good fit. Yeah, I feel like it's probably Cam Smith or Osiris Torrance here. Sam Laporta, actually, now that I think of it too, though, because Hayden Hurst has been good. I mean, he might even actually be having his best year, but how long is he the long-term guy? I don't know, and I really do like Sam Laporta. Dalton Kincaid's very good as well, but I just like Laporta a bit more. Sam Laporta, Osiris Torrance, or Cam Smith. I Yeah, Cam Smith makes a lot of sense, and I really like that fit here. But I also like the same with Sam Laporta. I am going to go Cam Smith here just because, talented corner, physical. I like him. He's, some traits similar to JC Horn. You're not going to get JC Horn here with him, but the corner room could use some help in Cincinnati, and you're creating a pretty good tandem there with. I'm struggling with names right now. Um, but God, the one Awuzie there who has declined a little bit, but still he's still got good play in him. Either way, helping out your defense, because the offense has really gotten going. Cowboys at 27, another team that's really started to get things going. The O line has started to play much better. You might be about to get Odell, and it might even be for multiple years. We don't know. Where do you really go here? I mean, I think corner is definitely in contention just because you don't really have that many weaknesses outside of it. You can still go receiver here. I mean, maybe you want to go with who do we really have at this point in the receiving room? Because I don't really like A.T. Perry all that much to Dallas. Um, you could go with Zay Flowers. Jalen Hyatt makes sense here. I actually really like that. Jalen Hyatt to the Cowboys potentially could make a lot of sense. Um, I don't really think you need edge rusher all that much. DeMarcus Lawrence is playing better. Sam Williams is playing good. And as for corner, I mean, I guess at this stage you'd go with Clark Phillips, maybe. Yeah, I don't know if that makes all that much sense. So I think the pick here is going to end up being Jalen Hyatt. Again, I'm not as high on him as other people. I view him ultimately as more of a slot than anything. But for a Cowboys team that you have CD Lamb, Michael Gallup's not played a ton this year. But I think Hyatt can bring that missing dimension to the passing game, pending Odell and all that. But either way, Hyatt makes sense here for the Cowboys. Chiefs at 28. I've got Anton Harrison here before. I still like that idea. Um, Besides Harrison, I mean, you might go edge. Kalijah Cansey makes sense here. I like him. I think maybe not the greatest fit, but potentially can work out well. Braylon Trice, or it might be Treese, but either way, Braylon Trice, that's really tempting. And honestly, I think that's where I'm going to go. I think another player that's getting a little disrespected, not as much as like an Isaiah McGuire, but I view him as a first round type player. He's a very talented edge with very, very high upside. He's I think he got hurt this year, but when he was playing, very, very talented, very, very good play from him. And just he comes off as one of those guys that's just like, it's not consistent enough for him to go higher, but he's just got those reps where he's just dominant. I think he had some of the best pass rushing stats in the nation this year. So, and stats are stats, sure, but when it comes to stats, pass rush is like the most transitionable in terms of stats and all that. So for me, really like Trice. I think he's worth this pick here. 29, the Vikings. Kalijah Cansey would make sense. They need interior help, and he could definitely give that to them. But the defense started playing better, aside from that. Even Patrick Peterson, who's starting to really have a bit of a resurgence. I don't know how long that'll last. Besides that, I don't really know where you go. I mean, maybe guard, I guess, or I don't really even see the need for that right now. The offense is playing so well. And at the end of the day, they need interior help, and I really like Kalijah Cansey, especially for a fit like this. So, to me, makes sense. Kalijah Cansey, 29 to the Vikings. Bills at 30. I think I made the same pick last time, but it's just their run game is non-existent besides Josh Allen. Get them the best runner in this class, Bijan. He's a beast. There's not many other positions they would even go otherwise, but makes sense here. And then the Eagles picking at 31 to end us off. Earlier, back all the way at 5, we went with Isaiah McGuire, I believe. And so at this pick, A lot of the corners are gone, and that's normally where I'd like to go, just because Darius Slay's older. I don't know if James Bradbury is going to stick around. Um, I think you could maybe also go offense here because Jameer Gibbs. Not only is he a really good runner and he's shifty, but he's also a very good receiver. So he kind of just brings both of those elements to his game. You could maybe also go safety here. CJ Gardner Johnson's been very good, but I think, maybe bringing a guy like Brian Branch makes sense here. The linebackers have played very well, so I don't know if you have all the need to go for that. They don't really take linebacker first round anyways. I think the issue is I would really like to go corner, but I don't think Clark Phillips makes all that much sense. And at this point, the best boundary corner, because even though Phillips has been very, very good, it's just he's a slot. He will be a slot at the next level. The best boundary corner outside of that is Emmanuel Forbes. And I feel like you got to go boundary if you're going to go corner, so I can't quite take that. You already went pass rush. Um, yeah, I'm going to go with Brian Branch. I just think he brings that extra element, to an already very stout defense. But just giving another playmaker to it. You're on a Super Bowl trajectory right now with the fifth pick. You already got a high upside pass rusher. Why not take a gamble, but maybe worth it might pay off. But either way, that's going to be my 2023 mock for this week. Let me know what you guys thought down below. Just trying to change up some things as well. Not all of it's realistic. Some players will go way lower, some will go way higher. It's a mix of things, just having fun. So if you guys like the mock, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification note. Wow, messed that one up. Hit the notification bell down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.